Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out, episode 232. This July will be the 5th anniversary of the show. Very cool. Thank you for your support. We have 4 great guests to get to this hour, so I'm going to dispense with the small talk off the top of the show this week. We're going to learn about a dirty version of the mega popular game Wordle in a moment. After that, Aura talks with us about how to stay cyber safe in 2022. WD Black will join us later to chat about a new internal storage solution for computer gamers, just debuted on Wednesday. And we'll talk about a plant-based platform to develop new products. All of this and more on a fresh new Tech It Out, powered by ASUS for those in search of incredible. I'll tell you more about ASUS shortly, but let's officially kick off the show. It's a real privilege to have back onto the show Gary Whitta, a man who wears many hats, including author, game designer, and former editor at PC Gamer magazine, whom I wrote for many moons ago, in fact. But Gary's probably best known as a screenwriter for several blockbuster films, like The Book of Eli. He co-wrote After Earth with M. Night Shyamalan, and even co-wrote Star Wars Rogue One. His latest project is Lewdle, which is a racy spin on the word game sensation Wordle. Hi, Gary. Good to chat with you again.
Hi, good to be here.
Why don't we dive right in? Tell us about Lewdle, and for our listeners, it's spelled L-E-W-D, like lewd, L-E. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, look, nobody needs an introduction to Wordle at this point, right? It's basically kind of taken over the entire universe. Everyone's playing it. Everyone's obsessed with it. Our, Twitter feeds are all, kind of dominated by these kind of yellow and green grids that we see everywhere. And, I have a lot of admiration for Josh Wardle, who, created this from scratch in a very non-cynical way, just something for his girlfriend to play because they like word games during the pandemic. And it's just a great success story that it's gone on to be this huge thing. And now obviously it's going to be part of the New York Times. It's just a really cool kind of Cinderella story. And, I've been enjoying the game, as have, people in my little friend circle and people at home, my family, my wife and my daughter, we all play it together, try to solve the word. And I don't know, I was talking to my friend Adam Nickerson, who I've done kind of various kind of fun projects with. We're kind of joking around with it and started talking about what a dirty Wordle version, what would that look like? Like, what if you could only use dirty words? Because that's kind of my level of, humor. I, very, very kind of childish, juvenile sense of humor. I think, when we're all kids, the very first thing that we do when we get our first dictionary is look up rude words. That's what I did with my first dictionary anyway.
Or when you learn another language, you always go to the dirty words first.
I thought it'd be, I like the idea, and I think this has actually kind of paid off, and it's why the game's been successful, is I like the idea of kind of combining kind of the very innocent intellectual exercise that is Wordle, right? Kind of just figuring out words, and you engage the same part of your brain as you would do with like a crossword puzzle or whatever, any kind of word game. But then also kind of combining that with engaging a very different side of your brain, which is, kind of the naughty side. And where I feel like that has come true is looking at people's tweets as they post their Wordle solutions. They always have a little comment like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm filthy enough to have gotten this in two goes or whatever. Like, what does this say about me? Or I don't know if I should be impressed or ashamed that I know all these words. It's given people in a weird way an opportunity to kind of look inside themselves a little bit, maybe discover something about themselves that they didn't realize in terms of like how prudish or how sheltered a life they may have led, or like how many words are surprising to them. I love it when people have to go Google a word because they don't know it and they're like, oh my God, I wish I hadn't looked that up. That kind of thing is really fun.
You actually have an option to read the definition of the word through Urban Dictionary once you solve it, right?
Yeah, we just plugged that in. A lot of that happened because our second word, the very second word we ever did on day 2 was the word, which I won't define for you, but if you want to go Google it, that's up to you. You may regret that you did, but it's one of the words in our dictionary.
Well, in an abundance of caution, I obviously bleeped out that word with a silly sound effect, but yeah. Let's just leave it at that.
And that's when people first started saying, oh my God, I wish I hadn't looked there. I wish I.
Yeah, I can't unlearn that word. Right. Yeah.
No, and yeah, that's right. You can't unlearn it.
All right. So for those who haven't played Wordle yet, and I'm sure many of our listeners have, it's a free-to-play daily word game in which you have 6 tries to guess a 5-letter word. Then you can share your success on social media without giving away your answer. That's what you were alluding to, Gary, with all the yellow and green squares. So Lewdle is similar, but it's an NSFW word, a not safe for work word possibly. Or as you said, it could be an innocent word, but it has some sort of dirty
But everyone's working at home these days, so
that is true.
It's more safe for work than it might usually be, for sure.
Awesome. Any tips that you have to mastering Lewdle other than having a dirty mind?
I mean, it's interesting. A lot of people, some people have said they think it's easier than the main Wordle game because there's a much smaller pool of words. I mean, like how many 5-letter words are there in the English language that Wordle is pulling from? I think they've got like, even after they filtered it down to words that they didn't think would be too difficult, I think they have like 2,500 words in their database. So, that game can run for years. Mm-hmm. We have actually, to our surprise, we have way more lewd words than we started with or thought we were going to get. So how many like naughty 5-letter words can there even be? As it turns out, there's actually quite a lot. I think we started with about 50 and we have like well over 100 in there now, some of which we've crowdsourced. Some people will tweet us and go, why isn't this word in there? Like, oh, yeah, good catch. And we'll add it.
But it has to be a 5-letter word.
Has to be a 5-letter word. We add new words to the dictionary every day. Some of them are very obscure. Some of them are based in like very particular specific sexual fetishes that most people might not know. But we want to be as inclusive as possible. If you want to, for example, furry wasn't a word in the dictionary until a couple of you've got to keep the furries happy, right? So let's add furry.
This is awesome. We are chatting with Gary Whitta, a celebrated screenwriter, author, and game designer, and it's his latest game that we have him on today to chat about called Lewdle. It's a not safe for work, if you will, take on the Wordle game phenomenon. And funny story, Gary, my wife Kelly has a bit of a trucker mouth, and someone sent her your game to play, Gary, not knowing that I knew the game designer, and we've been having a lot of fun with that. And so you said that you worked with a friend and indie game designer Adam Nickerson, but your wife Leah also worked on this, right?
Yeah, my wife Leah worked on it with us as well. We, generally when I cook up some kind of weird scheme, she, we find a way to kind of do it collaboratively together. And again, Leah's got she's got a very robust vocabulary as well, shall we say. So she ended up helping out with the dictionary side of things. And also interestingly, figuring out like some of the correctness of it. Like, for example, when we first started putting the dictionary together, we made a conscious decision not to have, and I won't say the words, but not to have words on there that are like misogynistic slur.
I saw you tweet something about that, and I commend you for that.
Yeah, we wanted to have like some fun and we wanted to be rude, but we wouldn't want to actually offend anyone. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what we discovered was a lot of people actually really wanted those words to be included. And, we talked a lot internally and we took a lot of player feedback. And then we ended up kind of changing our policy and decided that those words would be included in the dictionary. If people wanted to try them, they can.
And you have some options there too. I think you, like Wordle, have a dark mode, which could preserve battery life on a mobile device. And you also have a colorblind mode, right? So instead of yellow and green squares, which could be hard to discern. And yellow is, by the way, is when you guess a letter that's in the wrong spot, but it isn't the correct word. And green is when it's the correct letter in the right spot. You change it to orange and blue. Is that right?
Yeah, I've never actually tried it, but I believe so because I've seen a lot of orange and blue grids. There and again, in video game design these days, accessibility really is like that's a big thing that game developers are trying to get better at, and rightly so. Your gaming should be for everybody. We're also including, and this should be rolling out in the next few days, something called sheltered mode, which is for people who may have led a little bit more of a sheltered life and don't necessarily have like a large vocabulary of rude words. So we're adding an option, and it is purely optional. You'll be able to toggle on what we call sheltered mode, and that will allow you to input any word in the dictionary, just like Wordle, just so that you can, like, it won't be if it's not a lewd word, it won't be the solution, but sometimes it helps you just like lock in a letter or two and get close. To this.
Great.
So that's something we'll be adding.
Before we wrap up, Gary, how successful is Lewdle? Did you hit that 1 million player mark yet?
We're actually at 1.62 million players right now.
I'm like 2 days behind in your tweets, so that was fast.
I know. So when I did my last interview, I did an interview, I think like Business Insider last week or whatever, and we were 880,000, and I was talking to the reporter about whether or not we would hit 1 million or if that was just crazy at this point. And we're now at double what we had like a week ago, 1.62 million players. Not everyone plays every day. I think we have about 300,000 people that play every day. But considering when Adam and Leah and I first started this, I honestly thought like maybe we'll get a few thousand people playing. It'll be like a 2-day joke. So, what about Wordle with rude words? And we'll move on to the next thing. But it's really kind of massively surpassed my expectations for it. And I don't know, it's tapped into something. People seem to really like exploring that side of themselves. Like I said, it's an intellectual exercise, but it's also kind of an exercise in, well, just how dirty are you really? And it's like that's something that people seem to, in a very fun way, seem to have enjoyed, exploring and sharing with others on social media.
Yeah. Awesome. And then without further ado, where can people play the game? I know it's free and it's on the web. There's no app you need. And the best website would be?
It's simply lewdlegame.com. So that's LEWDLEGAME.com.
Awesome. Gary, congratulations. I'm having a lot of fun playing the game, as is my wife, Kelly, and her friends. And hey, I don't know if the New York Times will buy it for a couple $1 million, given the naughty nature of it.
People are joking that like Pornhub will buy it or something, what reputable media outlet would buy us. But I do want to say, just again, I always make a point of saying this, and we acknowledge it in the game as well, that obviously without Wordle and Josh Wardle, this wouldn't exist. It obviously is kind of just like a fun knockoff of the original that we're doing our own thing with, but we very much acknowledge the shoulders that we're standing on here. Wordle is just a little slice of genius that has brought a lot of joy into people's lives, especially these days. And we're all thankful for it. And I'm glad that we were able to have some fun with it as well.
Gary Whitta has been our guest, Lewdlegame.com. Thanks again, Gary.
Thank you.
When we return on Tech It Out, the 5 simple things you need to do to stay cyber safe in 2022. We'll be joined by cybersecurity experts Aura, that's AURA, when we return on Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Tech It Out on the Radio America Network. This show is powered by ASUS. For those in search of incredible, ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. And that includes its line of award-winning laptops and desktops, accessories like monitors, mice, and keyboards. They have mobile devices too, like smartwatches, smartphones, tablets, and much more. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. When it comes to protecting yourself from the myriad of cybersecurity threats out there today, and there are many, the answer isn't staying offline. Let's face it, right? Like living like a Luddite isn't the solution. But it does boil down to 2 things, I'd argue. Having a cybersecurity partner in your corner, and also applying some common sense to your online activity, like not clicking on an email link or an attachment from an unknown sender. As for a software partner, I wanted to invite onto the show Zulfikar Ramzan. He is the chief scientist and CEO of Aura Labs. Thanks for your time, Zulfikar.
Hey, thanks so much. Really great to be here, Mark.
So why don't we dive right in? At a high level, talk to us about Aura, which is AURA. What's the company all about and what your offering is for consumers?
Right. Well, Mark, I think the problem we were looking to solve at Aura is this idea that when you look at consumer cybersecurity and consumer digital safety, the world's a bit of a mess. There's a bunch of different solutions out there. It's hard for average people to figure out how to put it all together. But we recognize there's a huge opportunity here to provide essentially a common platform for intelligent safety in the digital world. So we've got a suite of technologies that come together and offer our customers the ability to really navigate the digital train with some level of safety and provide a lot of the capabilities for them to do that.
I get it. Yeah, some people will buy like a cybersecurity software, like anti-malware, which is of course short for malicious software, like virus protection. Some will then purchase a VPN, a virtual private network, to browse the web anonymously. Some may buy a password manager to manage all their passwords. And then there's like fraud prevention. Like there's lots of different tools. So you have a more holistic approach.
Absolutely. I think all of the above that you mentioned.
And you were previously chief technical officer at an enterprise security giant, RSA, for many years. What did you learn about the evolution of cybersecurity while you were there? And what kind of projects did you work on?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. RSA is definitely, one of the most iconic brands in the enterprise space when it comes to cybersecurity. So I think I took away a few key lessons. And number one, I think people think of cybersecurity as a monolith, but it's very much a mosaic. It's full of nuances and subtleties. As you alluded to earlier, there are many different problems that have to be solved in the context of keeping people safe. The second big lesson I saw was that we were seeing a ton of investment in the enterprise side of cybersecurity, new startups popping up, a lot of venture capital money going to fund these startups and so on and so forth. But there was a woefully inadequate level of effort put into consumer cybersecurity. And in my mind, in today's day and age where people are working from home, where they're engaging in digital experiences on a much more regular basis, the stakes have never been higher for us to actually solve this problem of digital security for the consumer. And then I think finally, at RSA, I think we've learned just, being in the front lines and seeing what threat actors were capable of. I recognize that we had to actually bring a lot of really sophisticated tools to make life simple for customers. Tools like artificial intelligence and machine learning, techniques from data analytics. And I think by putting them all together, we can achieve what you talked about earlier in the intro, which is this idea of having somebody in your corner, your digital Sherpa, if you will, to help guide you and help you navigate the digital landscape. And for us, it's really critical to be able to provide that level of personalized and proactive and predictive capability to customers, but not just enterprise customers, but to do it for the entire world.
Right. So you pivoted, you shifted from enterprise grade protection to more of a consumer facing one. Digital security, as you hinted at, the pandemic, things got even more complicated with so many people working from home or schooling from home, putting your data even perhaps at greater risk. So was this a natural progression for you? And what was it that made you want to embrace the consumer protection instead of enterprise?
Well, I actually started my career focusing on the consumer world. And then spent the bulk of it really in the enterprise space. So for me, coming back to consumers, in many ways, coming back to where I started and really knowing the place for the first time. But I would say the real catalyst for me at a fundamental level was, when the pandemic hit, we had all of us at home the entire time. At any given moment in time, there were 4 Zoom sessions running in my household. All of a sudden, it was impossible to go to school without being digital. It was impossible to submit a homework assignment or take a test or do anything for that matter. Mm-hmm. We began to use services that we hadn't used in the past, things like Instacart for grocery shopping and other hub services like that. And I recognized that, we had this important issue, which is that as more and more people went online, digital risk grew exponentially. Mm-hmm. And when you combine that with other trends, like, for example, the explosion of IoT devices, we did some research recently. As you may know, Aura just acquired a company called Circle a couple of months ago, and Circle has been in the kind of parental controls and family protection space. And when we looked at their data, it turns out among their customer base, the average customer has nearly 50 internet-connected devices in their home.
Wow.
And that sounds like an unbelievable number, but take a step back and think about your laptops and your desktops and your mobile phones and your iPads, and then you have smart speakers and smart doorbells and all sorts of smart appliances and smart lights. And when you add all that together, it's not surprising that you get to about 50 or so devices that are internet connected. And we spend so much time and effort thinking about our physical security. We'll put these amazing locks on our front doors, and yet in our digital dwellings every day, there are 50 plus digital backdoors that can be used by nefarious threat actors to get in. Mm-hmm. And so I saw the problem beginning to just rise in severity exponentially. And I figured if we don't do something about it now, the train's going to leave the station very soon, and we're not going to be able to catch up with it.
We're going to continue chatting with Aura after this short break on a few other threats that you need to be aware of, but with some simple tips to reduce the odds of being affected by them. Stay with us. More Tech It Out coming right up.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome, everyone. You are listening to Tech It Out. We're chatting with Zulfikar Ramzan. He's chief scientist and CEO of Aura Labs, and how they are protecting consumer devices. And yeah, congrats, by the way, on that acquisition of Circle, and a really powerful way to protect your family from all the threats that exist out there in cyberspace. So what would you say then, Zuli, as I know that your colleagues and your friends call you Zuli, if it's okay?
For sure.
What's wrong with our current view on protecting consumers online?
Yes, I think, when you look at the market right now in the consumer space, many of the technologies out there have been out there for, in some cases, decades. And there's not been a ton of innovation in that space in a long time. A lot of that work was very much stagnated. It was designed, number one, for a technical user. Whereas today, people don't have time to go and understand the nuances and click on different settings and configure things properly. So they need something that can be much more intuitive and easy to use. Secondly, the problem is highly variegated. So as you alluded to earlier, there's password management, there is secure networking through VPNs. There's a need for privacy controls. There's a need for identity theft protection, a need for transaction monitoring, a need for endpoint protection. When you kind of put that all together, for the average consumer, you can tell them to go buy these 15 or 20 different products, or tell them to come buy one Aura. And that's our idea, which is, can we provide that sort of halo of security around your entire digital life that becomes more of a one-stop shop, so really simplifying that process. And those are, I'd say, the two critical pillars for us is, number one, can we make a product that's easy to use? And number two, can it cover the breadth of use cases so you can actually naturally get to where you want to go?
And just to be clear, Aura is a software package. I know that you acquired Circle, which does have a hardware component, so maybe we can chat a bit about that. But for the most part, we're talking about an annual subscription that is software-based, much like other cybersecurity tools that people may have purchased in the past. As you said, some of them are decades old and they haven't really iterated much over the years. But this is essentially what we're talking about. It's a subscription service.
That's correct. It's a subscription service. And the nice thing there is you get this comprehensive, and we can update it. The reality is that the threats are changing all the time, right? So the threat landscape is constantly adapting. Threat actors are morphing their techniques. And it's incumbent upon us as a security and digital safety vendor to figure out how we can morph alongside, how we can kind of co-evolve and continue to provide you with the latest and greatest protections. And so we're constantly doing work on our end. We're looking at the data, we're looking at trends, we're figuring out how to stay one step ahead of the threat actors who are out there. And I think over time, what we're finding is that our ability to have this breadth of capability, our domain expertise, and the large amount of data we can look at gives us that ability to really be in lockstep to provide you the protection you need just when you need it.
And with that in mind, Zuli, what are the future threats that you think we should watch out for? I've heard ransomware is going to get significantly worse.
For sure. Ransomware has been an interesting case in point where, the idea of ransomware has been around for 20 plus years, probably 30 plus years at this point. And really, there was a few turning points in ransomware, but probably the biggest inflection point happened a few years ago when it became easy to collect a ransom by using cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And so all of a sudden, the rise in popularity of Bitcoin gave ransomware authors the ability to say, hey, we're going to charge ransom in Bitcoin. Bitcoin's got a level of anonymity associated with it. Not perfect, but would be good enough for most purposes. And it gives kind of a ready-made payment infrastructure for threat actors to actually monetize their efforts. And so in many ways, I think that the challenge we're seeing is that threat actors today are not motivated by notoriety like they were 30, 40 years ago. They're motivated in many ways by financial gain and by the financial opportunity. It should be no surprise then, if you look for many years, we've actually seen that the level of digital crime was actually outpacing the level of physical crime and costs of physical theft. And last year, for the first time, digital theft actually exceeded physical theft when you look at the overall amount that was being stolen. And that trend is only going to continue to grow. It's a scary idea. We're just going more and more online, which means that's where, it's like when they said, Willie Sutton said, why do you rob banks? He said, that's because where the money is. Yeah. Why would people go digital, and why would threat actors care about the digital world? It's because that's where all the people are.
All right. So with that in mind, what are you planning to do at Aura?
So we have really three main priorities right now within the Aura Labs team, which is a division of Aura focused on kind of forward-leaning advanced development and innovation. And so to me, I think the problems we have to solve for, number one, I think we have to build systems that are going to be much more personalized in nature. We have millions of users, and we want to make sure that we don't just put a one-size-fits-all type approach. How can we use techniques like machine learning and AI to provide personalization at scale? So every person gets a unique view into our product offering that is optimized for the risks that they're concerned with and for their personal context. Number two, how do we become much more predictive? How do we identify threats well ahead of time and look around those digital corners, if you will, and give you the protections you need at that moment in time? And again, machine learning and AI can play a critical role in that. And then the final piece of the puzzle is how do we become much more proactive? How do we actually start taking steps on your behalf? So for example, let's say I see that your password is available somewhere on the dark web. I can tell you about that, but wouldn't it be even better if I actually went ahead and updated your passwords for you once I realized that there was a problem? So that proactive element is also really critical. And so to me, those are the three Ps that are going to dictate our life ahead in Aura Labs. It's how do I become much more personalized, predictive, and proactive? And I think if we do those things correctly, or even reasonably correctly, we can make the digital world, and in many cases, the world at large, a much safer place in the years to come.
Awesome. I know there's a free trial at aura.com. Again, that's AURA.com. Individual plans start at $10 a month and goes up from there. after 2 weeks for free. And then there's family plans up to 10 people. So lots of options, lots of great material as well to read at aura.com. Zulfikar, Ramzan, great chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. Thanks again, Zuli.
Hey, thanks so much, Mark. Really a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, speaking of computers, if you are a PC gamer, coming up on the show after this short break, we're going to chat with WD Black about a new internal drive unveiled on Wednesday that has some like crazy speeds. It's not just about storage capacity, but also the speeds in which to access that data. So really big stuff for computer gamers after this short break. And speaking of computers and WD, don't forget to back up your important files on a regular basis. I just had a scare, but I do use WD external drives as well as SanDisk drives and the cloud. So I hedge my bets, in other words, to protect my files before it's too late. I had an issue with the drive internally on my computer, but thankfully everything's backed up. In the middle of the night, I used this software that I downloaded from Western Digital to make a copy onto a local external drive as well as upload it to a cloud service. So make sure you do something like that. I use two kinds of cloud storage. I use OneDrive, which is included with Microsoft 365, Outlook and Word and Excel and all that. I also use this cold storage called Zoolz, Zoolz, that uploads there too. So I got my bases covered, thankfully. All right, when we return, we're going to learn all about the WD Black SN770 drive that has some ridiculously fast speeds. We'll quantify that when we chat with Louise Tenorio from WD Black when we return on Tech It Out.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. Computer gaming is red hot, and when creating the ultimate PC gaming rig or machine or upgrading components to an existing computer, choosing the right storage is incredibly important. And so we're now going to learn about the WD Black SN770. This is an NVMe SSD or solid state drive, and here to unpack it all for us is Luis Tenorio. He's product marketing manager for WD Black, a Western Digital brand. Welcome, Luis. Good to chat with you.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for having me.
Now, before we talk about this brand new solid state drive, I think it was unveiled just on Wednesday, tell us about WD Black as a brand.
WD Black is our brand that's dedicated to gaming. We're aiming to provide storage solutions for all gamers. And here at WD Black, we're all gamers at heart. And so really what we're dedicated to is providing products that enhance the gaming experience.
All right. And because it's a Western Digital brand, we're obviously talking about storage to hold all your files. Some of the WD Black products are external storage drives. And today we're going to talk about an internal one. But why do you think storage is so important to both console and PC gamers?
Yeah, storage has always been at the forefront of gaming, whether or not you realized it, because it could come on a disk or a hard drive. But as games have become essentially more complex and more beautiful, that means that they're also getting bigger. And capacity, of course, is something that gamers will always keep at the forefront. It never hurts to have more games, so more capacity is always good. But bigger games can also take a longer time to download, and that's not something that gamers really want to go through over and over again. But also bigger games can take a lot longer time to launch on your PC or your console. So speed is really another thing that gamers want to look for when they're considering a new drive for their console or PC. But another thing that gets a little more complex is compatibility. So not every drive is compatible with an Xbox or a PlayStation, but here at WD Black, we're really dedicated to helping gamers find the right drive for them.
Yeah, good point. Just before we learn more about this new drive, it's also important to note that a lot of people are downloading games now instead of buying them or renting them on a piece of plastic. And you don't want to have to delete old games in order to add new ones on. So storage is really important. So let's now talk about the WD Black SN770. Please explain the significance of this drive in plain English and what it means for gamers.
So the new WD Black SN770 is really important because it brings more performance to more gamers. That's really the gist of it, is that it's a very fast drive, but we've made it more accessible so that more gamers can enjoy a higher performance storage device that won't really break your wallet. And this is bringing performance that we couldn't have thought would be this affordable only a couple years ago. So if gamers are building a new PC or upgrading the storage in their current rig, I really believe that this is going to be a very easy choice for them.
And this is not just a solid state drive, which an SSD is faster to access data and write data to than a hard drive, which is like on a spinning platter. But the NVMe is also important. Can you explain what that is?
The NVMe is a technology that allows the drive to speak to the PC faster.
Right.
So unlike a SATA SSD or, you mentioned a hard drive, the NVMe technology allows the SSD to access the PCIe technology on a PC to really transfer data a lot faster than was possible on SATA technology.
All right, thank you. And we're going to quantify those speeds in a moment. So that's the interface. That's how the card connects to the computer inside. And on that note, let's just clarify that this new WD Black SN770 is for computer gaming, right? Not for Xbox or PlayStation owners, even though there are WD products for them too.
Right. This is really dedicated to PC gaming, but we do have a large array of products for console gamers as well.
All right, but we're talking today about the SN770 NVMe SSD or solid state drive for PC gaming. And as you've hinted at, Louise, we are chatting with Louise Tenorio, product marketing manager at WD Black. Speed is incredibly important. So this offers a fourth generation PCIe interface with really fast speeds. Walk us through how fast we're talking about here.
Really, just to get to the nitty gritty about it, is that you can get up to 5,150 megabytes per second. And just to put that into context, if you have, your traditional hard drive, you can really expect to get speeds in the 140, 120 megabyte range. So we're talking a big jump in performance if you're coming from a hard drive.
Wow.
And, your SATA SSD is typically limited to about 500, 550 megabytes per second. So this is a tenfold jump over that.
Amazing. So you touched on earlier, Louise, that pricing was also a key pillar here. Talk to us about how much the WD Black SN770 costs and what storage configurations are available.
So the WD Black SN770 is going to be available starting at $59.99 US and up to $269.99 US. So that ranges from 250 gigabytes up to the highest capacity of 2 terabytes.
All right. And 2 terabytes, of course, is about 2,000 gigabytes. So that's a lot of storage for all of your games and DLC or downloadable content as well. Some extras that you may download to your computer for your favorite games. Awesome stuff. Is there a website, Louise, where you'd recommend to learn more?
If your listeners would like to learn more, they could go to wdblack.com or they could follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WD_Black. Thank you.
Okay, so WD_Black on social media. I follow you there. I love all the little videos and the tips and links to reviews of the products and all that. And then the website is simply WDBlack.com. And that's where, if they wanted to buy this drive, I'm sure you have an internal store, but they can also link to other retailers?
Yes.
All right. Louise, great to chat with you. Thanks so much for your time and congrats on the launch of the SN770 NVMe SSD drive.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
You are listening to Tech It Out, powered by Asus for those in search of incredible. Visit asus.com/US/radio to check out their awesome laptops. We'll be right back to learn about Calyxt using plants to develop tomorrow's products. We'll be right back.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We've heard a lot about sustainability over the years, to help slow down the depletion of natural resources on our planet, with many eco-friendly solutions that are cropping up. And we're going to hear about a very unique one now from a company that's revolutionizing the way the world uses plants with the help of AI, or artificial intelligence, with so many applications across industries from the pharmaceutical space to cosmetics and beyond. Joining us to talk about Plant Spring, this is a platform from a company called Calyxt, we've got on the line Dr. Travis Fry. He's Chief Technical Officer for the company. Thanks for your time, Dr. Fry. Good to chat with you.
You as well, Mark. Thanks for having us on.
Sure. All right. Now, before we talk about Plant Spring, why are plants the key to a sustainable future?
Well, the unique aspect of plants, if you go back to the very beginning, they've had to evolve very unique capabilities to survive without moving. They need to get all their food, all their defenses, everything they need to do in one spot for their entire life.
Yeah.
And so that capability is something that's very unique to plants, and that's what we're leveraging here at Calyxt, is to be able to leverage that the chemical diversity that plants have. And we know that they have a lot of benefits both for human health as well as other aspects of all of our daily lives. And then on top of that, the sustainability of plants in general, as we know, they supply oxygen, they replenish the soils, they are really the heart and soul of what gives life to the world. And so we believe plants have a unique place in the global economy and helping us to make the chemistries that we source more sustainable. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges in today's global economy is a lot of the sourcing is becoming less and less sustainable. And the challenges behind that are becoming more important for us to bring these types of solutions to bear.
Yeah. Very interesting and potentially irreversible. So this is why I wanted to have you on the show. So how does Calyxt solutions work and how are they different from other solutions out there? And please break this down for us in plain English. I don't have a degree in biotechnology.
So what makes Calyxt unique is we've spent the last 10 years really understanding how to program and engineer the plant to produce chemistries or oils in different ways that benefit us from a healthy standpoint. And what it allows us to do over those 10 years is create what we call the plant spraying platform. And that gives us the ability to design, engineer, and verify through chemistry and genetics that the chemicals or the chemistries that we want plants to produce, they can be done in a very efficient manner. And we're able to go through that sort of design, engineer, and verify cycle many, many times. And what's unique about what we bring is within that plant spring platform, we've created what we call our plant cell matrix or biofactory. And that gives us the ability not only to program the cells to produce the chemistries that are unique, but it gives us the ability then to produce those chemistries in a very sustainable manner. Much like fermentation, we can take the plant cells and actually grow them in a bioreactor, which is basically an enclosed system that allows us to grow those plants year-round. We don't actually have to use sunlight. We feed them a nutritive media or solution that they feed off of, and then they produce the chemistries that we program either they naturally produce, or what we've programmed in to produce more of.
Wow, fascinating. We are chatting with Dr. Fry. He's a CTO from Calyxt about why plant-based solutions will be a driving force in the goal of sustainability for the future, and how they're folding in AI and machine learning into the Plant Spring platform as well. So with that in mind, Dr. Fry, before we wrap up, can you give us a few examples of how your tech might impact the products that our listeners are using even on a daily basis?
Sure. Some of the most unique chemistries that come out of plants, you can think about in the pharma sector, there's a lot of drugs. When you think about cancer drugs and health promoting drugs, antioxidants, antimicrobials, those types of chemistries are really, really important. And plants are really, really well suited to create those types of chemistries where normally most other types of systems wouldn't be able to produce them. I
understand cosmetics as well. What would be an application there?
So cosmetics are great because when you think about a lot of skincare, a lot of the anti-aging, antioxidant chemistries that are really important for those skincare products. When you think about fragrances, most fragrances today, it's very difficult to source 100% sustainably sourced or plant-produced chemistries currently for fragrances.
Fascinating, Dr. Fry. Thank you so much for your time. Where can we go for more info?
Please visit us at calyxt.com, Calyxt. I appreciate the time and you having us on, Mark.
Yeah, of course. All the best. Thank you again, Dr. Fry. Be well.
You as well.
And thank you for tuning in to Tech It Out. Hope you enjoyed it. Say hi on social media. I'm around. It's Mark Saltzman. Mark with a C, Saltzman with a Z. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll chat with you next weekend for another episode of Tech It Out.